After months of waiting and anticipating, Monster Hunter World is finally out on PC. So the question is, after all this time, is it worth your time? Hey guys, Casey here, and welcome to my review for Monster Hunter World for PC. So before we dive into the review, let me preface this whole thing by saying this is my first true Monster Hunter experience. I dabbled with Monster Hunter on the 3DS, but I never became invested or had much time to pour into it. So with that being said, there may be some terms or pronunciations I get wrong throughout the video, so I apologize in advance. Monster Hunter World is an action-based RPG where you start with very little to your name and progressively work your way up to the top. In the opening cinematic for the game, you are shown to be a hunter on your way to the New World, where you're then tasked with tracking and hunting giant behemoth-like creatures known as monsters. Slowly, as you make your way through the game's starting areas, you'll encounter tougher and stranger monsters. As you take out each one you come across, you can then carve that bad boy up and use his parts to create new armor and better weapons. Speaking of weapons, there are 14 different weapon types in this game, each one offering a totally unique and different experience from the next. Like third-person shooters? Like Gears of War? Try the light bowgun. Prefer getting up close and personal while dealing insane damage? Try the hammer. Or are you like me and prefer to flail about in the air the whole time like Dante and Nero are arguing over who looks the most edgy? Try the insect glaive. Each weapon not only offers distinct styles of play that will cater to a large audience, but they also are extremely rewarding feeling to use. Nothing can quite match the feeling of chaining together aerial attacks with the insect glaive, or landing the ever so challenging third hit with the greatsword. In short, regardless of what kind of games you prefer to play, there's more than likely going to be a weapon here that will match your playstyle perfectly. Or you may end up learning something new about yourself, and lean towards a weapon or style that you'd have never previously guessed you would. Rule nothing out in regards to this. Well, besides maybe the hunting horn. The gameplay in Monster Hunter World is a unique beast. While I've been told Monster Hunter World is the most newcomer-friendly installment the franchise has seen, it still can be overwhelming to get the grip of. To add on top of it, the game offers very little in way of a tutorial, besides the occasional text box that tries desperately to explain the mechanics, but is often too wordy and uses terms and examples new players more than likely won't fully understand until much later in the game. But I suppose that could also be a good thing. I'm currently sitting with more hours logged into Monster Hunter World than I'd like to admit, and yet each time I play, I swear I'm still discovering new techniques, abilities, and mechanics. For example, nearly 20 hours into my game, and I just then learned how the buffing mechanic truly works for the insect glaive. Just because Monster Hunter World may be the most newcomer-friendly game in the series, doesn't mean that it's easy. Quite the contrary, Monster Hunter World is hard, and can be downright cruel if you go into a hunt ill-prepared or without knowledge of the monster that you're hunting. Everyone will hit a wall in this game at some point. For some, it's the Anjanath. For others, it'll be the Otto Garen, or however you say his name. But for me, it was Diablos. When you hit your wall and you just can't simply proceed no matter how many times you attempt the hunt, that is when the game's true nature starts to show. Monster Hunter is a grind fest. Some people, myself included, like a good grind, so I'm not using it as a bad term. However, I did want to mention that that's what lies in the heart of Monster Hunter. Lots and lots of grinding, and a little luck from RNGesus. Here you'll want to go back to the previous hunts and repeat them to obtain better gear in efforts to help break through your wall. Also, a bit of advice I wish I had gotten going into the game for myself: don't be afraid to spend resources and materials on new equipment. I promise you, you will get much more and much better. So spend the resources as they come to you to stay up to fighting shape. And don't worry, there's always something better just around the next corner. Now, I am reviewing the PC version of Monster Hunter World, and so I just want to take a brief moment to address some of the PC side of things. First of all, the game has Denuvo running in the background, even though at this point, I mean, what help is it really doing? It's just taxing and causes unneeded issues. The game has a pretty decent slew of graphic settings, everything from resolution scaling to volume rendering, However, among these options, you'll quickly notice absent are options for depth of field, motion blur, and bloom. Hopefully, future patches will add these options because dear God do I hate motion blur. But unfortunately, things don't get much better on the connection sides of things either. I've been met with error code after error code notifying me that I've lost connection to my online session and that the game will continue in offline mode, which oftentimes will bug out and make it impossible to reconnect without a restart of the game. This is particularly even more frustrating when you're in the middle of a challenging hunt with friends and you get disconnected. Luckily, yes, the fight will still go on. However, there appears to be yet another bug where the difficulty and monster HP won't reset back to the single player levels, and instead will force you to continue hunting and fighting a monster that is intended for 3 to 4 players to be fighting, essentially putting the game on ultra hard mode. So as you can see, the multiplayer side of things on PC aren't the best. In fact, I'd say they're not even serviceable at this point. They're almost just downright broken, rendering a huge part of the game useless or a pain in the ass to get to function properly. Also, I'm not sure if this is a PC related issue or if the PS4 version is like this too, but what in the actual hell is up with not being able to join friends who haven't watched the cutscene in the mission yet? Or the fact that you can't even have a friend join you in your story if they too aren't at the same place as you in their own story. This essentially forces the game to be played in single player, which I feel defeats a part of the game quite drastically. Also, the PC version could benefit from an HD texture pack, as many of the textures are almost embarrassingly low resolution. With that aside now, let's talk locale. The game has a wide variety of locations you'll be hunting monsters in, from dense jungles to vast deserts and even hell, the Rotten Vale. A desolate, decaying underside of the land, filled with gore, guts, and even tougher monsters. The environments are definitely a strong suit of the game. Each locale carefully crafted with intense attention to detail, with countless paths, routes in each location, that even seasoned players will likely find new ways to get around that they haven't before. Monster Hunter World is, for the most part, boss fight the game. You'll find yourself fighting dozens of intelligent and adrenaline-inducing monsters, all with their own movesets, attacks, and tells. The controls are extremely satisfying, if not overly complicated, but that's kind of Monster Hunter's motif, it would seem. Complicated. From crafting and upgrading gear and difficult to understand menus to just eating before a hunt, everything has layers upon layers of depth to it. Standing from the outside looking in, the game looks pretty straightforward. Kill the big monsters! But once you get your hands on it, and it's do or die, you'll realize just how important all these little poorly explained details truly are. With that said, let's move on to the summary. The game is fun. It's a hell of a lot of fun. But it's also pretty damn rough around some of its edges. The biggest issue of all is its current state for online multiplayer. Something needs done about it, and quickly if Capcom hopes to retain its player base, which the game does well deserve. So, what is my final score for Monster Hunter World for PC? Well, just like Monster Hunter World itself, it's complicated. If the online features worked as promised, this game would land an easy 8 out of 10. However, that's not the case. Plus, add on the confusion that many players will feel just because of the lack of a real tutorial, that takes another hit. So, my final score for Monster Hunter World for PC is a 6 out of 10, with a notation however. Once or if the multiplayer gets up and running properly, consider my final score for Monster Hunter World to be an 8 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed my review for Monster Hunter World for PC. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to stay up to date with my latest videos and live streams. Well, until next time guys.